how do environmental compliance costs land across different airline business models and geographies. Before we delve into comparing operators, it's definitely worth us pausing briefly and talking a bit more about the modeling that goes into this bar chart. We've used IBA's fleet, flight, and emissions data from the net zero platform to build a route level view of which flights, aircraft, and operators are exposed to mandatory environmental compliance. That includes SAF uplift, carbon pricing mechanisms, and emerging schemes in markets such as China and India. You'll see those schemes laid out on the right side of the slide. The output is what we call internally an implied fuel cost. It's not a reported accounting cost, and it's certainly not a forecast of each airline's full sustainability spend. It's a way of converting mandatory compliance into a fuel cost-like number so we can compare the impact across airlines. The key word here is mandatory. Airlines can choose to go further through voluntary SAF. We might see this in the US, more corporate SAF programs, or investing into their own decarbonisation targets, but those costs sit outside this modelling scope. Here we are isolating the least discretionary parts of the cost base. The model combines three key things: route exposure, policy pricing, including to what David was alluding to earlier, free allowances, ETS abatement costs. We also look into traffic and fuel burn assumptions through to 2030. The figures are shown in real terms. Right, let's take a look at the bars. The striped blue section is a scenario case, a potential expansion of the European ETS scope. Today, the EU ETS focuses on intra-European flying only, with aligned schemes in the UK and Switzerland. If that scope were to extend to departing flights from the EEA, that cost would spread much more widely across long-haul network airlines and non-European carriers serving Europe. This is a decision that the European Commission is making next month, so we will be waiting for what they say. This matters massively competitively. Under today's structure, short-haul European operators carry a high ETS burden relative to their fuel budget. A broader scope would bring more long-haul traffic into the cost base. Finally, Corsia remains relatively small. I've purposely highlighted the little slither of Corsia in orange so you can see it more clearly. It's small because it offsets growth above a baseline rather than pricing every time. And because eligible units are generally much cheaper than ETS allowances, as David was talking on in detail earlier, even in this relatively bullish scenario where we assume $45 per ton in 2030. So the key point on this slide is policy fragmentation does not remove exposure, it changes where the exposure appears and which airlines are most affected. Great, so the premise of this slide is to simplify the output into three buckets. We want to simplify it to SAF, ETS, and the proposed European ETS expansion. We will also quantify these costs, which you'll see at the end of each bar.